but I have been out here for a long time in New York.
Right.
You know, paying rent. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, just working hard every day still. You know, trying to keep up and get better. You know.
So we were talking before we started the interview and how you're from Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Now, how do you get from Milwaukee to New York?
Well, I knew I needed to either at that time I needed to go to New York or LA. And at that time, when I was making those decisions, New York was very different than LA in my mind. Like,
right.
For me, as a songwriter, I think it would have been more West Coast. But as a musician, it's more East Coast. I always felt like if you come to New York, cats will listen to you.
Right.
And you got a chance. LA, I thought it would probably be a little different. Like,
right.
You know? So I got a trumpet player in the area, E.J. Allen, and Carl Allen.
Oh, the drummer.
Yeah.
Right.
So Carl got the gig with Freddie Hubbard. Oh, and that was a big deal. He was like 18, he got the gig. So they had come out to William Patterson College in New York area. So I was going to go to that school. And then I was in a club one night. I got a scholarship to Florida State. And Marcus Roberts was down there before he got the gig with Wynton Marsalis. And so I ended up going to Florida State for 2 years. But then I left because I wanted to get to New York before I was like, wanted to get there before I was still young.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I kind of followed in the footsteps of E.J. Allen, Carl's older brother. And I came to New York and transferred to William Patterson College.
Okay.
And because I figured if you stay in school, you meet a lot of people around the country your age who are into what you're into.
Right.
So that was kind of my strategy. And then when I came to New York, I had to pay rent, because leaving your home is kind of a big deal. It is. So I hit the ground running. So after school, after classes, they had these jam sessions at school, but I would go into the city. I was working at the Lincoln Center as an usher in the evenings, hearing everybody from Vienna Boys Choir to Kool and the Gang to anybody, Miles, I mean, you name it. And then I was going to the clubs at night. So I was really hitting the streets in New York because I had a hunger and a drive, and I wanted to pay my bills.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't have anything to fall back on. So I was hustling, and everybody else was kind of studying at school. And so then I started working, and I was working with, I got the gig, I was in a funk band with JT and those guys from Manchild. We used to play at Tramps a lot, and we would open up for all the funk groups like Larry Graham, The Time, any funk group who would come to New York, we would open up for them. And that's the band with two bass players who, our brother Dave Jones was there.
Right.
And so from that band, I hooked up with Billy Cobham, and because a lot of people saw that band.
Right.
And then I moved to Switzerland for that year, and I left that. Then I just kind of been touring ever since.
Okay. Now you mentioned Billy Cobham. What albums, if you recall, was he promoting during that period of time?
Well, Baron Brown.
It was that period. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Baron had just left, and Dean Brown had just left too. Mm-hmm. So, man, it was real. I was thrown in the fire.
He still had Jerry Atkins playing with him.
Oh
right?
my God, Jerry Atkins he was brilliant because he was one of those guys who could truly program the synths.
Right.
But truly harmonically have that wizardry, like, a la Chick Kirby.
Right.
And so when he did the Tonight Show with Kevin Eubanks, but it was just Billy and Jerry Atkins, sound, percussion, and me. So I was a rookie. That was my rookie year. And the thing about being a rookie when you're touring is, I was really already well-traveled.
Right.
Because I grew up traveling, so that was easy. That part came to me. But I think as a rookie in sports or music, you know, it's developing consistency. So, like, you can have a good night, but you got to have a good night the next night.
Right.
What I learned from Billy Cobham, honestly, was how to live on the road and pace yourself throughout the day, how to get up and keep your energy the same through your activities in the morning, going to the gym, then sound check or sightseeing before sound check, getting your rest, doing the sound check. After sound check, you eat, and then after the show, right? And then I was like, all right, when's he gonna crash? When's he gonna crash? No, then after the show, he would talk to everybody, sign every autograph, and then he would do it again. So I was learning this music, and I think at the time, because I was with Marcus Roberts a lot, we were playing a lot of harmonic music. Like, so we were playing changes, like, say, Confirmation or something, you know, playing 2-5-1s here and just learning your harmonic, getting that language happening. But I think when I got with Billy, it was more modal music. And it's so funny because earlier in life, like when I was a teenager, that's what you're playing. It's funk. A lot of it is more modal.
Right.
So then I got really into harmony with Marcus because he's freaking amazing. And so about that time, he started playing with Wynton's band because Kenny and them had left with Sting.
Right.
So Marcus was with Wynton and I was with Cobham, and I was kind of getting my minor chops back together. Modal, I should say, not minor, but modal. Because now I kind of approach it minor, sub-minor technique. That's kind of what I do now in those situations. But yeah, man, then a lot happened around that time. And I learned consistency. Because that first year with Cobham, I wasn't really consistent in my mind. Looking back, like I have a good night, and the next night I had to learn to duplicate that,
right,
and to keep my energy constant. So I learned if the show, sometimes say the show is 7:30, I got to the point tricks like I could be asleep at 7:25.
Oh,
seriously, and I learned how to like get on stage, and I learned little tricks like, you know, I would find somebody in the audience, for example, with the energy, and I focus on them, and I get my energy up, and then, you know, so it's a lot of lessons that year, and Billy was real patient. So I took all those experiences, and you know, been going ever since, really.
Well, Billy Cobham, that's a real baptism of fire. You know,
no kidding.
Guy, you know,
it was.
Especially then, he was still like this really playing really energetic fusion. You know, I remember those albums.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a baptism by fire. And when I look back at it, like Billy was behind his drums, Sal was behind his percussion, Jerry was behind the keyboard, and I was kind of like this little kid out front playing, and then I was working like I said, it was more modal music.
Right.
So like if you got, for me at that time, I was really going through changes. You know, I was like G minor, C7, you know, F major, and I was just like, okay, I can substitute this. But then I hadn't been to the point where I was expanding on modal stuff.
Right.
So, but hey, we're constantly learning.
Right.
You know, so, but it was cool. It was a great tour. It went well, and we're friends to this day. And then I just started working, man. I started working, but I did notice there were certain types of music that I was more passionate about.
Okay.
You know, like I remember I had a weird, I think in my opinion, I had a weird foundation because I knew harmony. I could read.
Right.
I could always read, and I always knew harmony, and I always was street funky. You know, I had the street ear funk. But there were certain things I wasn't really passionate about. Like I love Cameo, you know.
Right.
I want to be funky like Cameo, but I want to play jazz like, you know.
Yeah.
And then the stuff in between, with some of it was, I call it mature music. I wasn't really mature in my mind. I was kind of wild.
Right.
I was a wild player, like exciting.
Right. You weren't ready on set.
I wasn't trying to like play Luther.
Right.
I listened to it, but it wasn't in my heart. Like, you know, and then I got those kind of gigs, and I look back, I was like, wow, man, I was trying to be funky in that situation where it was like really serious R&B string.
Right.
So I didn't have that maturity, I call it.
You still had like a musical athleticism that you were trying to.
Absolutely.
Right. I get that.
Absolutely. And Victor Bailey, another one of our brothers, he was always so encouraging, and he was very forthcoming with his wisdom. So he would encourage me constantly and tell me, "Oh man, you doing it? You just need to play." You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, it was a great time in New York. It was.
It's funny you mentioned Victor dropping wisdom, because he was a young cat also.
Right.
When he played with 19, when he played.
Think about his situation.
Right.
He had to come in at 19 after Jocko.
Right. Right.
That's insane.
So he had to get smart real fast. Yeah, learn the ins and outs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
Yep. So he and I, he actually used to date one of my best friends. She was like a sister to me. And so, you know, we got to spend some quality time. And he just let me know everything I was doing was right. He encouraged me. Sometimes you just need that.
Right. From somebody out there who's doing it also.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We were on working with this artist on RCA Records. Me and Carl Latham were working with Charlie Elgar, and that's when CD 101 started happening.
Right.
So so we started being on the radio with that group, and that was pretty cool music because it was really well produced.
Right.
And then, you know, I started touring with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and oh my God, that first band was incredible. How
did that situation happen, the BS&T? Because that band is kind of famous for being like a clearinghouse for like the top cats.
Yeah.
Mike Stern, notably coming out of, BS&T. How does that connection happen?
What happened was Mike Mancini, keyboard player, simply recommended me to sub. Jeff Gellis was there, and some reason he had to leave for like a period of time, and Mike recommended me, so I went and I subbed, and it was just really, I think David Clayton Thomas was like, yo, who is this guy? So then he and the manager took me in a room. Now granted, I'm subbing, right? They take me in a room. We get to Europe, actually. We're somewhere in Europe, and they pull me in a room, and they're like, yo, we want you to be the bass player.
And you're subbing.
And so I say, well, Jeff hired me. I'm here. I'm subbing. I got to talk to Jeff. And they said, well, it's not his decision. It's our decision, and we're asking you. I said, well, okay, I'll talk to Jeff, and then we'll talk.
Right.
So I called Jeff. I said, yo, man, what's up? This is what's happening. He said, no. He said, don't worry about it. I figured it was happening. He said, things were kind of dead in the water. I'm moving on. He said, I tell you what, I'll finish this out this fall, and then we'll talk again come Christmas. So that happened. We talked Christmas. Long story short, he said, man, just go ahead. Feel comfortable. So then Graham Hawthorne was on drums, and he's an amazing musician. So he kind of taught me the show, It's interesting music because it's everything. Like they were the first, what they called the first jazz rock band.
Right.
They were the first ones. So like they were like, they'd be on tours with Miles Davis, but they also had #1 hits.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was cool because I got to interpret that music the way I want. And it had, they play rock and they play country and they play funk. I made that shit funky. And then they play jazz and fusion and hits, and you got the solo.
Right.
So, and then the guys were hilarious. You know, I really met some lifetime friends, you know, and the horns. So we had 2 trumpets, tenor and bone, and full rhythm section. So that was cool. I really liked that because I kind of come from that big band. When I was a kid,
right.
I was I kind of came up with big bands. That's how I met like E.J. Allen, and Carl Allen, because you know when I was 12, 13, 14, I started playing with big bands. Like I couldn't read really when I was 12 and 13,
right?
But I had a good feel. So and Mark Cleckley had a big band, so he would just encourage me. And then I started doing the clubs at age 14, 15. But then I learned how to read in the 9th grade. I was forced into it, embarrassed into it. And then, so I always had that big band mentality. I love big bands. 16 cats on stage.
Right. There's a certain power to that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, I like people, really. So I like being with the guys, you know what I mean? Or girls, guys and girls, really. Like I like being with people. So on stage, it was powerful. So BS&T kind of had the big band thing too.
Right.
You know, so I would play the bass. I would think of the bass a lot of times as another voice in the horns. So if you got trombone, tenor, first and second trumpet, I always thought of my bass down there as a 5th voice. So there was a certain clarity that I would do, like you would hear all my notes.
Right.
And I would let the PA, we were playing concerts, so I figured you got the subs on stage, they're gonna hear the bottom.
Right.
You know, an arrangement. But so I love the clarity. I love the articulation of that band and the dynamics. And like I said, Graham on drums, he taught me the show. And so it was killing that first year. And then those first 5 years, it was killing. And then the last 5 years I was there was a different configuration where it was special too. Oh my God.
How so?
Well, it's two things. Like, I always like to say it's kind of 3 things you want to do as a musician. Like, you got to show up, right?
Right?
That's why we were talking a little bit earlier about, you know, when you're doing more than one band at a time.
Right. Right.
You know, like, you got to show up. You can send a sub, but the bass and the drums, that's like the foundation of a house.
Right.
If your bass player ain't there, it changes everything. Everybody's cool with it, you know.
Your job's getting done.
Right.
Right.
Job's getting done, the cats are professional, but the bass player and the drummer, you need that consistency.
Right.
I think. And then, so, but apart from the musicianship, it's the personalities, like,
right.
You know, like people, man. We had comedians in the group, Tom Timko, Dave Gallis, my dear friends for life, Jerry Sokoloff, trumpet, Charlie Gordon, trombone. We're just friends for life, you know. Van Romaine was on that drums, that band now. He's everybody was in that freaking band.
Yeah.
Tim Reese is with the Rolling Stones. Just everybody out there came through there, but I somehow stayed for a long time.
You were there, how many years were you there?
20 years.
20? It's like 20 years in college.
Yeah.
Essentially.
20 years of fun.
Right.
But you got challenged every day. And then there were good years and bad years. Like I said, the first 5 years and the last 5 years, or last 8 or 10 were the best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those special bands. These cats could play. You know, seriously. Yeah, so now Steve Jankowski, he's with Chic now with Now. Okay. Kenny Joffrey is one of the finest soloists you're ever gonna find. He and I are still working together with Smokey every week.
You're gonna get to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so yeah, man. But playing with them, then you got all these amazing musicians, but I was kind of raised to be open-minded in terms of style, right?
Right.
And that band was perfect for me because I didn't expect this guy with a classical background to be the swingingest jazz. I was more of a team player, like,
right.
Oh, this is what you do. We'll blend it with what this guy does.
Right. How can you make it work?
Right.
Right.
And that's what made Blood, Sweat, and Tears in my mind.
Right.
Like, they had the country guy, they had the classical guy, they had the serious jazz cat, and they had the serious funk cat. So I looked at it like that. I didn't have the jazz mentality of, you know how jazz musicians can be. Like,
yeah, they can be strict jazz cats.
Right.
Right.
Jazz Nazis.
Yeah.
So I never really had that.
Right.
And that really helped, you know.
So it helped you kind of build like a unit cohesion.
Yeah.
With all the different genres of cats who were. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
man. Yeah. So I always had a gift of working with people that way. Because my oldest brother, like when we were coming up, we would all go, everybody in the neighborhood. It started being this thing. I think Prince started it a little bit where, you know, you go down, oh, he played all the instruments.
Yeah.
You know, so we go down in the basement, play keyboards, guitar, drums, bass. Look what I did. My brother said, yo, man, he said, music is about sharing with others. It's about working together with other musicians. That's where the magic happens. He says, cool, you can play your own, play all the instruments. It's cool. But you want to work and create with other humans. He says that's where the magic is. And I always took that to heart. And I actually think that was probably, looking back, probably one of my strengths. Working with others.
So play with others.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. You know.
So, 20 years of BST. The next move is.
There was stuff in between that though.
Okay.
You know, like it was really tricky though, because like, say for example, Maxwell. Let's say Maxwell, right? So I knew Maxwell. He's probably 16, 17, and he was always Maxwell, by the way.
That was it. Huh?
You know what I mean? He was always Maxwell. So before the hits came, we would be like, you know, I'd take some cats from neighborhoods, they would come to rehearsal, they'd be like, yo man, that kid Maxwell is like ridiculous.
Wow.
And yeah.
So it's not some industry invention. He was just always.
He was always Maxwell. 15, 16, 17. So we used to rehearse twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at the music building across from Port Authority. And we rehearsed, we had steps. We were a band. Me, Hot, Jada, Prez was there, Gary Haas was there. And at the beginning, but him and Maxwell used to go at it, boy. And then, but it was cool, man. So Atlantic Records came and they said, yo, we did a gig at Webster Hall. That was the big gig. So we had Webster Hall. It was us and the New York Groove Collective with Jonathan Marin and those kids.
That's right.
Yeah. So we used to do shows together because they used to promote them. So we're doing a show, man, and Maxwell, the band we were killing. So Atlantic Records says, we want to sign you, we'll give you a development deal. 3 songs, $75,000. So Max, till the cops come knocking, and whatever. So, but Max, we were writing, but this is where it got interesting for me because I was always touring. So Max called me, yo, let's write. I'm in Europe. You know, and I had these tunes he wanted to do, but I'd be like in Japan or some shit. So I played on the first album, but I didn't write on the first album.
Okay. I
was supposed to end an album went to #1, and he's, you know, so that kind of stuff was happening, but I always kind of had a dual career.
Right.
You know, and I was always working because I had to pay. I just had to work.
You had to eat.
Yeah. And I love playing and touring. But if I just didn't get those kind of gigs and I just did, you know, career would have just gone off a different way.
Right.
So then I had the gig with like Regina Bell, and that's what I call, for example, the mature music.
Right.
Back then, because Bernard Bell and Regina Bell, when I look back at it, that's what I call mature. Right. They were, I can't believe how advanced they were at that age. Regina Belle was a kid, really, and she had control of the arena, you know. And Bernard, when they wrote the songs for Michael Jackson, him and Teddy.
Right, that's Cool's brother, Bernard. Bernard Belle.
No, that's Regina's brother.
Right. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So really, I think that and everybody said that. They said if Teddy Riley and Bernard Belle stuck together, they would have been like Jam Lewis or L.A. and Babyface.
Right.
They would have been. They were like that. And they was just young and just really mature. I was more like, funky, let's just go.
Just want to play.
But we were young, man. So those kind of gigs, you know, I don't think I was really in that mature head. I call it mature head, which is different than the jazz mature head.
Right.
To me, I wasn't that R&B like smoothed out.
Very formatted.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right.
But it was rich.
Right.
It just wasn't in my heart to play like that.
Right.
At the time, like, so footballs, we call it in jazz, like, you know, we just go in there, you know, just laying that foundation only.
Right.
Because like you were saying, you know, you want to spread your wings at that age and really just like, you know, get your harmonic vocabulary together, learn lines, and
you got a lot of stuff that you want to say.
Yeah. So then, but because I was producing records for, we were doing a lot of television stuff too, like for the Viacom companies like TV Land and Nick at Night. So we were doing MTV Cribs even, like whenever they needed spots. Me and Brian Delaney and Reagan and Marco, we were doing the music for that stuff. So then we hooked up with Nile Rodgers and Sophia Chang, and she would get us gigs. But then again, I'm always touring. So I was always had a foot in this door and a foot in that door. But Sophia was really in the hip hop world. So her and RZA from Wu-Tang were really tight. So that's how I got on the first Wu-Tang albums.
So I didn't know you on that, see?
Yeah. So I'm on the Wu-Tang in a weird way. So I'm in the studio with like RZA and Q-Tip and all them cats coming in, and I didn't really grow up on that music. Cause I'm really I'm a Midwest funkster, like whether it's like Cameo again or AC/DC, just like cars just straight down the street.
Right.
But the hip hop thing was different. So I think that's why it kind of worked a little bit, cause they weren't my like heroes.
Right.
So they felt very comfortable around me, because you know that's another thing. It's like meeting your heroes sometimes can really mess you up, you know, because your blood pressure goes up and you're not yourself.
Right.
So if you're in the studio, you know, I think it's a big thing. I think some people have it naturally. I think most don't. You know, like I think if you walk into a situation and sometimes you don't even know, it could be a celebrity that you think is I don't know, just think about meeting a celebrity, somebody you admire. You're not yourself, you know. And that's why one of the things I really respect about like Smokey, he treats everybody the same. Because people come up to him, yo, I got married on your song, or your music changed my life or something. And they're all kind of excited, happy to meet him. And he's like, really cool with everybody. You know what I mean?
Right. So
like, if you're on a session, you go in there, like, think of somebody who you really admire. Say Herbie Hancock or God rest his soul, Chick Corea or something. You're in there, you're like, holy cow, I'm in the studio with So then your heart rate goes up and you may not be able to be yourself.
Right.
That's what happens.
Starstruck.
Yeah. And that can really affect the music. So I think a lot of times those sessions, I wasn't starstruck at all. So I was like always real cool. And they was like, oh, okay, Gary's real cool. So then I got to do a lot of records through that period. And it's the times when I wasn't cool, it didn't work out.
Okay.
That's why I bring it up, you know, so.
It's actually good advice, you know.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up.
Right.
So just be cool, understand that, you know, the power, God's got the power, He's within each one of us. So, You don't have to look up to other people. You respect them.
Right.
And you look up to them, admire what they do, but, you know, just be cool.
And that goes back to what you were saying about, you know, you got to know you're good enough to be in the room too.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.